Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. Casual Sports Podcast. I'm Alek, Koberna, Mike Wolfgang, Matt Morrison over there. Hope you all had a fantastic weekend. I know Matt and I did. We had an absolute ball calling a Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse this past weekend. High school basketball. We saw some high flying action. And then Cleveland, can we give a special thank you to the Cavaliers hooking us up with some free tickets afterwards, too? They didn't have to do that, but very nice people. Helped us all throughout, even with some chaos to start. They got everything going perfectly fine and hooked us up with some tickets afterwards. Fantastic people up there. Fantastic game. Matt, why don't you go ahead and start us off here on this week, getting us right into your girls basketball team from this past week as we enter week 14 here on YSNlive.com
Wow.
for the Casual Sports Podcast.
That's hard to believe.
Yeah, we've been here a while.
That Brookfield girls team is something now. You're going to see them tonight, right? They're playing Liberty.
Yep, I got them. This is the matchup of the night premiere. And for those of you trying to tune in to watch that game, by the way, has been moved up to 6:15. The JV game is only going to be 2 quarters long, so they moved this varsity game up a little bit. It is in Liberty. I think everybody needs to come out and try and watch this game. And for those of you wondering about power rankings and how those are working out, as I pull them up, girls basketball, Liberty is now second in YSN, and to me, they're sitting behind a 4-2 Canfield. They are better than that Canfield team. Liberty, to me, is the number 1 team, not just for YSN, but potentially the state of Ohio. Brookfield sitting right back there at number 9. So these two teams collision course tonight. But Matt, why don't you talk about what this Brookfield squad did against Crestview this past weekend at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse?
And it was a very tight game. Brookfield really sublented themselves for the win near the end. They just weren't going to lose. They said, hey, we're not losing this game. We drove all the way out here, and we're not going to lose. We're better than them, and we're going to beat them. And they came out and did great. I mean, Audrey Reardon, Sophia Hook was awesome. And then, Anna Reichert down in the paint, too, was great, too, putting up every rebound and going to the line, pretty much making every free throw. So hats off to those girls and, the rest of the team, too. But the Crestview girls, I mean, that one girl down in the paint.
Lorraine Gaskins.
Oh, my gosh.
She's a freshman, about 5'10", 5'11". Once again, I think she's had double-digit games in every one so far. So despite their losing record, to me right now, she's one of the best freshmen in the Valley.
Brookfield had a hard time stopping her. She kept them in the game.
Every time they went down low, it was Gaskins, and she just threw it up, and they just fall in.
Yeah.
She is a really special talent in Crestview.
Yeah.
And the fact that she's only a freshman and has so much time to develop in these next few years, she could be somebody that I see potentially a Division I scholarship athlete 3 years down the line. So she could be a huge talent coming out of Crestview. They have to continue to take advantage of that one. Ended up 48-44 victory for Brookfield this past weekend. That was a real close one, and it didn't feel like it at first because you saw Crestview start at this game. They were up, 12-2? Brookfield looked like they were falling flat. It was going to be an absolute blowout runaway, and then Brookfield just started going, man. They just got hot, started really throwing it up from 3. Shots were falling down. They couldn't do anything wrong, and they ended up pulling that one out. It came down close, but they hit the shots when it counted. Right there at the end, they pulled out the win. Then that next game that we called right after that, Newton Falls and the Windham Bombers. Newton Falls destroyed them, man. It was a blowout of epic
I didn't expect it at all.
No, you didn't. I mean, you were talking to me before the game. You were expecting like this winning team. They had a lot of big guys, a lot of athletic guys. We saw them in warm-ups. I mean, they were throwing down dunks and spinning around. It looked like the Cows warming up, but then they were out there playing, and they looked more like the Houston Rockets. They were just terrible, and especially in comparison to Newton Falls, they couldn't hit a shot. They couldn't get their passes on. It was probably the worst night in their history because they couldn't get a thing to fall for them. And I felt bad. Like, oh, man, can you imagine you finally get a chance to play in this big arena and then nothing, absolutely nothing went their way. Newton Falls, though, give them credit. They were on. They couldn't miss. And that's what put them behind so far is that Newton Falls was just on the money. They came up. They were shooting hot. They went up 13-3 to start it, and they never looked back. They were on the run from the minute the whistle blew and that tip went off. And there was a no contest because Newton Falls came ready to play. And when they grabbed that lead, they didn't let up at all, and it was a runaway.
Yeah, but the passing for Newton Falls was insane,
Yeah.
and the shooting too. Like when the outside shot wasn't going, they just moved it inside, and they just were putting wild shots up. To be frank, and they were just going in. It was insane. It was just insane.
Well,
Good
Matt, that's what you do when you can't hit shots. You got to go in and
They
try to work
passed
inside
like
first, and then
5
move back out.
times. They passed the ball like 5 times in a blink. That ball was just boom, 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 and then they were in the paint and just putting up layups. It was
they were finding wide open lanes every which way they looked. It was incredible.
They wore out Wyndham pretty quick.
And Matt, do you have a game tonight, by the way, too?
I do have a game tonight. I have the Brookfield girls tonight, and it should be a pretty good game. That game is going to be around that 6:15 start as well. And Brookfield, their last game, they lost to PV, but PV was pretty good, 3-1, and now Badger is looking to come in here tonight and get a win here. Let me get my schedule because I don't know who they play.
Oh, geez, Matt.
Being prepared.
Yeah, I got it right here. So,
December 13th, Matt.
Yeah, December 13th. This is the boys' schedule.
Oh, geez.
Here's
Matt's so not prepared.
I got it. They're playing Fairport tonight, Fairport Harding. So this one should be a good game. JV probably going to play 2 quarters as well. But Katie Grexa is the heart and soul of this team, and I think a lot of teams target that right away. So there's a bunch of other good players too. They have a girl named Addie Thompson, and Thompson is very a physical player, and she can get down inside as well. So, but she can get into foul trouble though. When she's not paying attention too much, she'll get into foul trouble, and that's very detrimental because they have to sit her down, and then they rely on Grexa the whole time. So if she can, lower the fouls each game, and Grexa and her get going, this team's going to be something. So hopefully they can show that here tonight. It should be a pretty exciting game.
Matt, back on my end, we already kind of talked about it a little bit. Liberty and Brookfield at Liberty. Tune in YSNLive.com tonight, 6:15 for my game in a top 10 matchup here on YSNLive.com. Should be one for the ages as well. I mean, so many star talents on either side. I mean, my Liberty team right now, Kylie Thomas, she's not huge when it comes to scoring, but she has lockdown defense, and she can throw the rock around no problem. Sienna Smith, she got held quiet in her last game. I don't expect that to last. She's a girl that can go off for 25 points per game. She can drill them from 3. She's really the superstar all-around athlete that this team has. They have a lot of good players, but when you look for that one athlete that can break open a game, she is certainly one of them. You got to watch out Aaliyah Parker. She's coming off a 26-point performance in their last game, a 69-40 win, by the way. This is the hottest scoring team in the state of Ohio, and they are off to the races. And then you got to watch out Demi Watson. She's not going to wow you with incredible speed or crazy athleticism, but she has phenomenal ball skills, and she's one of the best shooters I've ever seen, especially when she decides to go mid-range. And watch out because she'll throw a Euro step on you as well. And Brookfield's going to have to really play lockdown defense and stop Liberty from getting transition basketball going, because that is the bread and butter of this Liberty squad. You can't keep up with them because this is the best conditioned team in the Valley as well. I mean, this team will run with you for 48 minutes in this ball game, and they will make sure that at the end of it, you're exhausted, collapsing on the bench, and they're sitting over there ready for triple overtime. That's just how this team is going to go. They don't get tired. They never seem like they're even breaking a sweat, and they're always going 100%. They're not letting off. They don't let off the gas in any of these ball games, and that's what's so terrifying about them, is that most of the time you see a team go up by 30 points and they start letting off the gas a little bit. They're slow the ball down, stop running their offense, and sometimes you even see a team on the other side crawl back into it. Liberty is going all out 100% for this entire ball game. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is a team that could go 3-4 overtimes extra and still be ready to go for a fifth, because this team seems so well conditioned and athletic and just perfect, actually. This is the perfect basketball team if you could put one together for a girls basketball squad. I don't think you could ask for anything better than what Liberty has. And not to mention, I think they're only going to lose about 4 people this year to graduation, and none of them are really any of their big scorers. They're going to lose Tiana Weatherly, and she's a big part of their defensive scheme, but this is a team that this year is the best and they only have room to grow because pretty much the entire starting 5 will be back next year.
Wow.
Something good to have.
Watch out for Liberty and Coach Dieter Watson, because she's trying to put her name up there right next to Pete Prokop in Liberty history, and she's got the squad to do it. These are going to be some numbers come here in the next decade or two that is going to be retired in this high school, because this team is that freaking good. And I'm not joking around when I say that. I'm not just trying to hype this team up. I honestly believe this is the best basketball team I've ever seen touch the court.
Wow. So,
and I've seen professionals.
Be a game tonight then?
It might be if Brookfield can hit shots. We saw them start slow against Crestview. If they start slow, they will get run out the arena faster than me eating a plate of fries.
Oh, jeez. You eating that poutine.
That thing was gone in 30 seconds.
Oh, so good.
Flannery's in Cleveland. Yeah, it was freaking delicious. Yeah, if Brookfield starts slow, it's going to be like that bowl of poutine this past weekend. It's going to be gone in 60 seconds.
I'm like, Alek, do you want any appetizers? He's like, oh, poutine, let's get it. I'm like, all right.
You got to go all out, man. You got to do it right.
It's just gravy and cheese and like French fries. Oh my God.
Those fries were so good too. But yeah, this game tonight, it has all of the potentials of an absolute history-making game for both squads. This could be one of the greatest games on YSN networks, or this can be another blowout from either squad. Realistically, both squads can score. I know Liberty can score probably about 20 more points a game than I think Brookfield does, but I saw Brookfield's defense. They're really locked down, and they will hold you down for a long time, not allow easy baskets underneath. So it's going to be speed versus defense here tonight, because I know Brookfield's not going to come at you with blazing speed. They play great in transition, but the speed that Liberty brings, they will steal the ball at half court, and by the time you turn around, they have 2-3 girls standing next to the basket. It's just a question if they can make those in, because they did struggle in that last game to score in transition, despite the fact that they had so many more chances. I mean, they probably, in transition ball, could have finished with 80 points in that game if they hadn't missed so many. I mean, they had 69 in the last one. They probably could have had 80 or more. So it's going to be something else here tonight. I'm very, very excited for this matchup between Brookfield and Liberty.
Wow.
We'll have to see how it goes.
So let's get into professional sports here. Monday Night Football, Arizona Cardinals hosting the Los Angeles Rams. Arizona can officially clinch a playoff spot with a win. They will not clinch the division, but they will clinch a playoff spot, meaning they will at least have a wild card scenario. Arizona 2.5-point favorite coming into this one. And can you really say anything bad about this Cardinal squad? I mean, even without their leader in Kyler Murray earlier in the season, they were still winning games. Colt McCoy came in, threw it 44 times against the Seahawks, and they win that one when he has 2 touchdowns and 230-plus yards. Their only loss came in a weird one against the Carolina Panthers, and Colt McCoy and Chris Streveler were their 2 quarterbacks. So you can't even put their one most recent loss on Kyler Murray. And then, I mean, yeah, you go back to when they lost to the Packers. That was a 3-point game, and he did not play well. But this team has all the makings of a championship squad. They really seem to have all the pieces that you could possibly want. And I think they're really living up to the hype from this past offseason when they got everybody they could have asked for in free agency. And they have put to get things together in a phenomenal way. And I think you can say the same thing about the Rams. All the hype was up because they brought in Matthew Stafford. He had to play well, especially with the team that necessarily didn't have a number 1 running back. They didn't have a number 2 wide receiver. Now they've got all of those with Kupp, Higbee, Jefferson, OBJ. Sony Michel starting to cement himself on the ground. And now this team seems to come together, and they still have an amazing defense on the other side of it. So the Rams are coming together. The Cardinals seem to already be together in full form. And this is a collision course right now. It should be an epic one at that.
Wow.
And I think with this game coming in, it is going to be a collision course, because you talk about the Cardinals, Alek. This is their first home game in nearly a month. They haven't been at home. They've been on the road. I think their last home game was that Carolina game when they had that upset loss. But yeah, with the Rams coming in, they're still trying to find themselves too. They haven't been themselves the last 2 games. And what you said about this Cardinal team, this is a team that I was talking about last year. Could have been in the playoffs, but going into last year, I thought they could be like the 49ers were 2 years ago when they reached the Super Bowl. Not that far, but it's in terms of being sneaky. Nobody thought as much of them. Then they have this offseason where they're bringing a bunch of guys, and you really can't say what they have done is a big surprise coming in, because they've been doing it consistently to this point of the year. and they've been doing it without injuries. They haven't had Kyler for a couple weeks, but now they get him back. He's been back.
They're getting him back.
They're coming home tonight,
yeah.
so it's a Monday night game. So it is going to be collision course. I like how you put that.
Yeah, he's still having an elite season despite his injuries. This guy is amazing. I mean, my dad asked me straight up, Matt, like, who do you think is going to go to the Super Bowl? And one of the teams was like, I said, the Arizona Cardinals. Like, I'm sold on them. Like, I know Green Bay is lurking there too, but I think Arizona has a legit shot at going to the Super Bowl. And I mean, tonight is really going to show that because I mean, the Rams are no below average team. I mean, the Rams are good too. They got Stafford, Alek. You named all the targets. They have OBJ, Cooper Kupp.
Right.
They are capable. Sony Michel even. Sony Michel's
Van Jefferson
sweet in LA. And what were you gonna say, Mike?
Van Jefferson too.
Yeah, Van Jefferson is so underrated.
He's pretty much got a spot back thanks to injuries too. So he's right back there in the meat of things. And OBJ in that last game, not too great of a performance, but I mean, I don't think they're necessarily going to worry about what he's bringing to the table with everything they have going on. I think they want more out of him. Obviously, they didn't just pick him up for nothing. So he's going to have to do better than that last performance, but I don't think they need to necessarily worry about it. 2 receptions, 28 yards. He still had a touchdown though, but I mean, that's pretty much the numbers he was getting out of Cleveland. And he's one of those guys you have to feed him the ball or else he's going to start complaining like he did when he was in Cleveland. He's one of those wide receivers. They're drama queens. They want the ball. They want to feel special. So, I mean, they're going to have to get the ball back to him or else he just like so many other wide receivers are going to get frustrated, and that's just what happens. And that's just really the landscape that these teams are working in. So I'm expecting him to get looked at a little bit more tonight. And I have a feeling this will be a wide receiver battle on both sides.
And
whichever core shows out the best is going to win as well.
And Odell's a guy that sometimes cries when he doesn't get the ball. How about we just saw last week with New England throwing 3 times? Can you imagine him lasting through that?
Oh no, he would have been crying, kicking nets on the sideline, yelling at the coaches, and he would have been in the locker room by halftime. Probably didn't come back out.
Yeah, but
can we just point this out as well, real quick? That game, last Monday in New England or in Buffalo, 30-mile-an-hour winds and pretty bad conditions. Can we just say most of the teams this weekend also played in those style of conditions? Not 50-mile-an-hour gusting winds, but I know Cleveland was in about 25. I think Pittsburgh was still about 20 as well. And neither one of them were exactly warm games at that. And can we just look at the passing stats from around the league as well from what those teams did? Because, I mean, Baker was having a phenomenal game in that first half yesterday. And obviously Big Ben's fantastic in the fourth quarter this season.
Yeah.
But I just think it has to bring up to the point that a lot of these other quarterbacks were playing in similar conditions and played a lot better football than that past Monday night game.
In Green Bay last night, actually both teams last night, Green Bay, the weather in Green Bay, but the Packers and the Bears.
I can't believe that game last night.
It's a shootout last night, and the weather was freezing. It's Green Bay.
I know.
They found ways to get the passing game going. But, back to tonight, I want to see the Cardinals because they're 3-2 at home this year. They're 10-2, but both their losses are at home. So I want to see them, kind of reestablish their home field advantage that they have. And, they beat the Rams early in the year on the road. So let's see if they can do it tonight at home.
Let's see.
You're taking the Cardinals? Go ahead and make your pick here. We're about 20-minute mark, so we'll go through now.
I'm taking the Cardinals.
I got the Cardinals.
With the win tonight,
I'll go Cardinals.
All right, sweet. With a win tonight, they're really going to be like, hey, they really have a great chance now at going to the Super Bowl. I think they will do regardless, but I don't. Yeah, I know. I'm kind of worried about this Rams offense right now. They haven't been playing up to themselves, and not to say they can't turn it around tonight because they're definitely capable of it, but. You got to roll with the home team, and when a team's coming in, that's struggling. You're on the road. You got to roll with the home team.
Well, I do want to point this out. The only 2 times on the season that we haven't all gone straight across on Monday Night Football is when the Bills have played, and it's only been Matt that has gone differently. So, in that throughout the season, I thought that was an interesting stat to point out at least. So we all go same thing across the board on Monday Night Football here.
Yep.
Before we move into NFL recapping, do you want to put this out there? Dolphins running back Philip Lindsay has tested positive test positive for COVID-19. All 3 running backs in Miami are on the COVID-19 reserve list.
And that's sad because they were just starting to play well.
Right. And I was looking ahead like, oh, they got the Jets this week, and I already had them marked down on my sheet as the Dolphins were winning it. Now I want to wait and see what happens during the week. Obviously, all these guys potentially can get back to normal within next Sunday's game. I mean, I think that's the one benefit is they all tested this past week, and then Lindsay was just today. So as long as I think it's 2 or 3 negative tests in 24 hours, they can be cleared to play. So it's not the end of the world, and I think they can get back on track. But I also want to point this out. This is a running theme now running across not just the NFL, but games in the NHL tonight. The only matchup between the Blackhawks and the Flames has been postponed as well due to a COVID-19 outbreak within the Calgary organization. That was the game we were going to pick tonight. I was looking into stuff and putting together the show, and I went, oh dear, this game is gone now. Their games have been canceled through December 16th due to the NHL. And then in the NBA, the Chicago Bulls have been canceled for the rest of the week as well, including their matchup with the Raptors on Thursday, which we were also going to be talking about. So I do got to point this out there. There's 10 players from Chicago that are out with COVID now, and it's becoming a big problem within the sports associations. I'm interested to see if any new protocols come up or changes with fans potentially coming up here soon.
Yeah, man, you put out the hockey game too, and that sucks for the Flames because they're a team that's starting to play. You know, you didn't expect a lot from them this year. So, and you know, with the Magic, I saw it to kind of make it funny a little bit. Nick Vucevic put on Twitter, he was like, hey, Magic, or whoever the Raptors, and there's somebody else, but he was one of the 2 teams. He was like, hey, you want to play a 3-on-3 game? Because that's all I have. So you got to have some fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, if we get to a point,
3-on-3 would be cool. That'd be actually
imagine like NBA Finals, it just becomes 3-on-3 because everybody is out.
That'd be pretty cool.
Geez.
I mean, okay, so how about this? If you could pick any 3 guys from one team this season to be that 3-on-3, who is that 3 you're taking? I think one of the ones at least to be considered if Kyrie ever comes back is Kyrie, Harden, and Durant.
Oh, geez.
Well, Kevin Durant's a given. He's the best player in basketball. I don't think that's an argument.
I mean, like trio from one team, though. Well, what's that team that has a trio?
Oh, it has to be from one team? You can't mix them?
No. If it was the NBA Finals this year, what team has the 3 to be able to make that run?
Chris Paul, Booker, and Ayton.
I like that. I like that matchup. Steph, Clay, and
I was just going to go there. What the heck?
Chris, who? Draymond, too?
I don't know. Depending on how Clay does when he comes back. I might go Draymond or Wiseman, too.
I'll take – you know what? I'm going to switch. Since they don't have Kyrie, I'm going to go KD, Harden, and I'm going to go – because I think Patty Mills, I think he's done a good job filling in for Kyrie. So I'm going to go there.
Patty.
I think he's done better than they thought he could have done filling in for Kyrie. Just as good as they thought.
Yeah.
Markkanen, Garland, and
no. Garland, Allen, and Mobley. That's their big
Garland,
3.
Allen, and Mobley. Oh man, that'd be some alley-oops.
Can I change that?
One problem with that is the outside shooting might struggle a little bit if you're only relying on Garland. I mean, Mobley can put him up sometimes, and so can Allen, but I almost feel like Markkanen keeps that size in there with Mobley and then can also defend the paint and stretch the ball outside. I think Matt's threes might actually be a little bit better, but in terms of a starting 5, I think I would take my big 3 to be Garland, Mobley, and Allen instead of Markkanen.
Or Garland.
Markkanen can shoot.
Or Garland, Allen, and when they get Karis
screw Garland, give me Markkanen, Mobley, and Allen.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It's working. Nobody said it was going to work.
Then you know what? If I need a reserve, give me Taco.
Oh, man. Taco Fall's so awesome.
Hey, he had a birthday last week, too.
Dude.
Shout out to him.
So huge. We saw him in warm-ups, and everybody was picking on him. Everybody was taking the ball out of his hands. He's like, come on, guys. I want to shoot, too.
Dude, he's huge.
He was throwing 360 dunks down as well.
Yeah.
He
doesn't even have to jump.
That game I was at when they played the Wizards, they brought him in at the end because they were trying to get him, to affect the inbounds pass. Dude, and I was on the opposite side of the floor. Dude's huge.
Yeah.
He's huge.
I mean, he's 7'5", one of the biggest players in NBA history. I think maybe just with or right behind Yao Ming. So, I mean, he's an absolute beast. But why don't we go ahead and look ahead now, or look back to this NFL recap this past weekend. First game we're going to stop back at is Mike, your Cowboys, 27-20 victory over the Washington football team. They just edged out the win. Why don't you talk a little bit about your squad there? Well, what happened?
Well, it shouldn't look this close because they were pretty much blowing them out. But I think the reason why they started out 18-0 is because their defense, and this is, again, guys, I keep bringing this up. I wouldn't have said this last year about their defense for how bad it was. But, the last few games, their defense is carrying them some of these wins because their offense hasn't looked great. And
I mean,
you got to score out of defense,
and you couldn't really run the football with anybody.
Yeah, and I'm not freaking out about it, but it's definitely concerning. It's something to look at because it's been the last few games, and that the Saints game, low scoring game. You could probably say their defense probably won that game too. You could probably say, and it's not like their offense can't score with some of these good teams. They scored a bunch against Tampa Bay week 1. They scored a bunch against New England that I keep saying has a great defense. So they can do it against some of these great teams. Just they're in a slump right now. And, the passing game isn't as much as it used to be. And I think they're, like I said, I think they're relying on it too much. And, they need to reestablish that running game. But, yesterday, it's good for me to say that they can win in different ways, right? It's good for me to say that, if they don't outscore everybody, put up 40 a game, they're going to lose. It's good to know that their defense is improving. In the last few games, their offense hasn't been great, and their defense able to carry them some wins. So that's definitely an encouraging thing. But yeah, I want to see their offense get back on track. I'm not panicking, but it's kind of getting worrisome this point of the year.
Well, Mike, also with that, I mean, your running back room's dealing with injuries. Obviously, Pollard was out this past game, inactive. Zeke Elliott's nursing a knee injury as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of problems going on. But at the moment, you also have Zeke Elliott, who is still on pace for a 1,000-yard season. Yeah. I mean, he's just 200 yards shy. He has 8 rushing touchdowns. Pollard has 6 rushing touchdowns and 600 yards on about 80 less carries as well or about, 48 less carries? 185 to 107. So, yeah, about 80 less carries than Zeke Elliott. I mean, he could be very well on pace if he can come back to another 1,000-yard season. So you could have 2,000-yard backs in your backfield. I don't think you could ask for anything better to go into the playoffs with because, once you come down to playoff time, the ground game can be huge. And I think that's almost maybe more of a blessing than a curse it was to see Pollard out this past weekend with the injury because you got to see what you had out of Corey Clement, too.
I was just going to say that.
A lot of spots in there. I mean, he was averaging 3.4 yards per carry and was pretty much doing the exact same thing as Zeke. No rushing touchdowns on the ground. I want to see that get picked up a little bit more, but offensive line has to play a little bit better. But I think this is a very good-looking squad, and obviously, 24-0 going to halftime. I think it's pretty much the same spot you saw the Vikings in on Thursday night when they led up in the second half. The Browns did the same thing against the Ravens. They led up with a big lead at halftime, and obviously the Cowboys do it too. So it's just a matter of can't stop playing at halftime, and I think all these teams need to remember that as we get closer to playoffs because we're at that point in the season, teams can and will come back on you, and you almost saw it on 3 different occasions this past weekend. Yeah,
with all 3 of our teams. But, I was talking to my dad about this too because we were watching the game yesterday. It's like, Dak didn't play terrible. He had 211 yards, 22 of 39, so he didn't play terrible. But it's like the last few weeks seems like their offense is good, but once they get down, ready to score, they kind of stall out. They started the game, they were driving that first drive of the game. They started out with the ball. They end up with a field goal, and that's not what you really see from this offense normally when they're hitting on all cylinders. When they get down that part of the field, they usually punch it in. So, again, I'm not freaking out, but it's something to, somewhat keep an eye on because you don't want that to happen this time of year.
Right. Well, moving on to our next game here for this past weekend, I do want to take a brief stop and look at what it actually looks like the worst team in the NFL, and it's not the Lions. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh, yeah.
Trevor Lawrence, 24-40. 4 interceptions, and they finished with the fewest rushing yards in a game in team history with just 8. They ran the ball 8 times and got 8 yards. I don't know what the hell Urban Meyer thinks he's doing throwing the ball this many times. Run the damn ball. Are you a freaking idiot? James Robinson is one of the best, most talented running backs in the league, and he's getting 6 carries. Yeah, he only got 4 yards out of it, but maybe try and build him a rhythm instead of just going, oh, Ray, we got to run the football. Let's do that here. Blah. I mean, the Urban Meyer is coaching this like he's a drunk hillbilly sunbathing on the beach. I mean, he's an absolute idiot right now, an imbecile, and I can't believe Jacksonville won't fire his rear end after this weekend.
And why do you throw the ball that many times and only run it 8 times when you have rookie quarterback? Yeah. Why? I mean, that's something of failure right there.
Here is it is my belief his ass is gone this offseason. That's where I'm putting it.
Well, you see the rumors coming out. Not so much about his job, but he's not getting along with anybody on the coaching staff. He's calling them names and stuff like that, and he's getting defensive. So he's having a bad first year on so many levels. The team
having a bad first and last year is what it's going to be. No one's going to pick him up after this. He can't work in a room.
I don't know if anybody want him in college either.
No. I mean, I think there are people that are going to want him in college, but I think the big job, right, USC, it just got filled. That was where all the rumors, right, of where he could potentially end up was USC. That was really the only school that wanted him. That's gone. I mean, maybe Florida will take him back and let him do 1 year and retire at the big school. Who knows?
Well, didn't they hire somebody? They may or may have. I don't.
Who it was.
There's just been so many coaching vacancies that.
Oh, I know this.
I feel like it might have gotten filled.
Does not look like there's one yet. Billy Napier turned down the job.
Okay, that might have been the one I saw. But yeah, I don't know who's going to win him in college. Maybe a smaller team. Maybe somebody that's desperate, just looking for a name, and who knows? He's cost himself.
I can't see a coaching hire right now. I was just looking through the list, but yeah, I just wanted to stop at this game and point out how freaking terrible it was and how terrible of a matchup this is going to be between the Jags and the Texans next week. Both teams lost by 20. At least the Texans scored.
This is another great example of how big-name college coaches really can do anything in the NFL. They can adapt. It happened to Nick Saban, and now it's happening to Urban Meyer.
I mean, some are just good at certain places and levels of football. It's not anything to be mad, frustrated about.
Urban Meyer is probably one of the best college coaches. He's up there, and now he's probably one of the worst NFL coaches.
Well, he's right up there next to Hugh Jackson in terms of worst head coaches.
Oh God.
I mean, at least Urban Meyer got 2 wins. Jackson got 1 in 2.5 seasons.
He got 1 tie. He got a tie.
Yeah, he finished 131-1 all time. I mean, that was awful.
I'm looking it up. Look it up.
But let's continue to move through the week. Seahawks and Texans, 33-13. Seahawks back on track. I mean, they feel like they're out of the race. Yeah, but I think this is more getting Russ back into a rhythm.
3 wins.
Oh, yay.
3-36-1.
Okay. But I feel like there's more getting Russ back into a rhythm so that he can finish off this season just fine. And I don't feel like they're really worried about their draft position because I don't think they have a first-round pick. I believe they traded it away, actually, to acquire, I think, one of their defensive backs last year or the year before. So they don't have a first-round pick, so it doesn't really feel like they're worrying about it at the moment. And they're just letting Russ go out there with reckless abandon and get a rhythm and see if they can do something, make a push down the stretch. Because, as I said, they're not working with the first-rounders, so they don't really have to worry about it. And they're going to finish probably below 16 anyway.
And you don't know what's going to happen at the end of this year. You don't know if the rumors are going to start hitting the fan with him again, wanting to get out. There's plenty of other places that could probably want to make a push for him. So, I mean, honestly, finish out strong with Russ and finish out strong as a team. But I think things can get ugly with them again. Matt, what do you think about your boys?
Your squads here?
What's that?
And any thought on your squad here with the Seattle Seahawks?
I mean,
you seem to like them.
Yeah, Seattle. 5-8 now. They were 3-8. They won 2 in a row. So Russ is back, and I really don't want to hear about any more of the trade rumors. Oh, they're going to trade Russ and everything. I'm like, it just even if this is totally like probably not going to happen. But there's like one little thing that said it was going to happen. I'm like, no. Russell Wilson will never go to Pittsburgh, okay? Never. He'll never – and I wouldn't like that either. I wouldn't like Russell Wilson to come into Pittsburgh.
Oh, yes, he would.
Yeah, no, he'd have the first Russell Wilson jersey made.
No, honestly, I wouldn't like it too much, okay? Pittsburgh needs to start out fresh, okay? We need a fresh quarterback. We need a fresh offensive line.
Like
quite frankly, God, that would be even worse. Quite frankly, we need a fresh, coaching staff, at least offensive and defensively. Canada and Keith Butler need to go.
You want to get rid of your defensive coordinator?
He's horrible.
Okay.
No, the defense is just horrible right now.
Well, it's always stemming from him, too.
With the Seattle squad, if they win out, if they go 4-0 in these next 4, finish 9-8, they have a 54% chance at that final wild card spot. So it's not over, and I kind of feel like they're trying to make that push here at the late stages. And they weren't going to take a loss to the 2-11 Texans. That's for damn sure.
But how do you feel with the schedule coming up? They got to go to the Rams this week, Bears and Lions. Those should be wins.
I like those.
And then you finish with the Cardinals.
It's hard. If they lose one, they're out of the playoffs. They're statistically eliminated. Less than 1% chance to get in at that point. So. To me, it's control destiny time. Remember, we keep talking about it here at the end of the season. I feel like that extra game just kind of adds a little bit extra intensity and like, hey, you have that much more of a chance. You have one more game that matters. It's not your week 17 that matters in most cases. It might end up being that way for the AFC North again, but I mean, it definitely adds a little bit more intensity here in the late stages in December.
Yeah, it does.
Because I feel like we're at this point last few seasons, and it's like you pretty much know who's going to be in. This year, it's wide open.
Oh, and you see, especially in the AFC, you see how many teams
with a chance to get in the playoffs.
You see in the AFC how many teams are. There's like 7-5 teams.
Yeah,
all fighting for.
There's even
more 7 and 6 teams too,
right?
7 and 6, yeah.
7 and 6 teams, and I mean, there's so many that are right next to each other.
Pittsburgh's 7-6-1, and that ties is hurting them right now.
Yeah, it really is. And that could be really what eliminates them from contention, especially now that the Browns just jumped from 4th place to start out the week now to 2nd in the AFC North with that win over the Ravens.
And the Bengals losing.
The Bengals losing, right. And the Steelers losing, too. I mean, that all helped. And, Matt, Steelers are 6-6-1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
You said 7, didn't you?
No, I said. I mean, that tie could really mean something though, because they could be 7-6-1. And
you know, Alek
they could be right there with everybody else.
And I mean, I think the big one here in the last 2 weeks, January 3rd and January 9th, Browns and Ravens. They have to win those games, and they have to win against the Titans. They have to beat the Chiefs. It is a hard remaining schedule for these AFC North teams.
Yeah, and these AFC North teams. I mean, nobody wants to win. Who's going to win this division? Nobody wants it right now. We keep talking. It is a loaded division, but it's so tight and. Every time you feel like somebody's going to break away, like the Bengals, and they have a slip up, like the Ravens yesterday. I mean, I know there was Lamar, but they're not playing good.
That was an exciting game yesterday.
I turned it off at halftime. I figured it was going to be over. I checked final score and I went, "Oh dear, I'm glad I didn't watch that. I would have had a freaking heart attack."
Browns almost blew it again.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
I mean, that was an epic first half they had. And I mean, Baker couldn't do anything wrong in the first half, and then second half came around. It was like, "Oh dear, please no."
And and that's a game. Onside kick. I'm like, here the Ravens go. The Browns are going to blow it again. And, I don't understand what they were doing. The backup quarterback to come out throwing it twice on that drive. I don't understand that. And you had timeouts. You had 2 minutes.
They didn't really have running backs either. I mean, keep in mind how many injuries that team's dealing with this season.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they only had him.
But they had a chance. All you could ask for.
He didn't play that bad down the stretch. I mean, he opened up bad, but second half, I mean, he put up the yards. He put up some numbers. Just couldn't pull it off.
They had a chance.
Yeah, I mean, all you can ask for at that point is a chance when you end up with that situation. Next game to stop at here along the way quickly. We'll take a peek. And first win since week 8. The New Orleans Saints get back in the win category. Of course, it's the first time I ever picked the Jets this season. The Saints win, so that was wonderful. Mike, you're the only one that went with the Saints that time.
I picked up a game. Let's go.
You picked up one. Although, Mike, it was not a great week for you. I'm not going to lie, dude. You may have got that game. You didn't get many others along the way. You did good at the NFL. We all did good, actually. Mike, you and I are both 11-3. Matt, you were 9-5. But everywhere else, Mike, you kind of struggled this week, and you actually ended up with a worse percentage than you did the week before. You were at a .583 last week. You were down to a .582. Matt, you were at a 596 last week. You were also down to a 592. And then I was at a 615 last week. And I'm now at a .623. So I was the only one that jumped up after last week.
Oh.
Yeah, it was not a great picking week across the board for the majority of the ones. I mean, college basketball, I was the best at 11-7 somehow. Matt, you were 9-9. Mike, 6-5. NHL, my algorithm continues to work. I went 4-1, and then we all were wrong on college football. Navy beat Army.
Hockey is the worst one to pick. It has been for me all year. I can't get anything right in hockey. It's too hard.
Yeah, and right now it seems to be working out pretty darn good for me because I'm 19-9 when it comes to picking hockey. Mike, you're 10-16 overall, and Matt, you're 14-14.
500.
Yep,
we shot under
500 before the All-Star break, Matt. That's all you want, right? 500 going to the All-Star week.
Yes.
All right, so let's head back to the NFL, though, as we continue to move along. Falcons have now won 4 straight road games with their win over the Carolina Panthers, 29-21. I thought this was an interesting game because you saw the Falcons the Panthers switch around their quarterbacks a few times throughout. They started with Cam Newton. They pulled him after 78 yards and an interception. They put in Phillip Walker. He does okay. They go back to Newton a little bit more, and I think they ended up going back to Phillip Walker again as well. And they didn't have any consistency on offense because of that. I think they really lost their chance at building any kind of momentum rolling through that. I mean, Chuba Hubbard had a touchdown, but they only ran him 10 times. I want to see this team run the football a little bit more, find an identity on the ground. And I don't really care if you lose games because you suck anyway, and just try and find something to build off of. And I think they have lost their identity because C-Mac isn't there to run the football 300 times a game, and they're now afraid to go back to Chuba Hubbard for some reason, even though the first time this season when McCaffrey was out, they gave it to him and he picked up the slack just fine. Now they're not doing the same thing again, even though he was averaging 3.3 yards per carry in this last game.
Yeah, and I don't know why they're kind of going away from it, because this is a guy that's a solid running back, and he was a solid running back in college too. So
he put up like great numbers for 3 years at Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and when you're having terrible quarterback play, you're putting two guys in. Cam can't do anything. Walker can't do anything. You got to kind of imagine getting more than 10 carries. I know you got to spread it around a little bit, but 10 carries, I mean, you got to get that up a little bit more.
Yeah. All right, we'll continue to move along here in the NFL. The Los Angeles Chargers picked up their 5th straight win over the New York Giants, 37-21. Not much going on there, but you did see Herbert finally find a rhythm once again. I mean, he was going off, especially late at the half. I think he launched a massive one to get an extra touchdown there in the second quarter, and they got 17 points alone in that quarter. I mean, he was having himself a night, and 3 touchdowns, 275 yards, clean, no interceptions, and I mean, he was filing Jalen Guyton for 87 yards. Palmer had 66. Mike Williams had 61. I mean, he was finding pretty much everybody. It was a perfect game for them. And then, defense did just enough. I mean, they get 2 sacks on their end and an interception, and they just held the Giants down to the ground while the offense worked right along. That's kind of what they've been needing to do, just allow Herbert some room to go, and he can make the throws and get it down the line. But sometimes you just feel like he doesn't have the time to do it with the Chargers, because they'll just fall behind immediately, and then he just has to start playing from behind, and he's not necessarily the best when he's in that scenario, but when they can get out on top early, he's one of the best quarterbacks around, especially at his young age.
Oh yeah, because he's athletic, and this is the way the Chargers beat you. They start out early, because I feel like if it's a slugfest, if it's kind of like a close game, they struggle in that, and they jump on the Giants early. They're at home. They should do it at home against a team like the Giants, and because you really don't see anything from the Giants. But yeah, Herbert, this kid's special.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, we continue to move along. We won't take a look at the Lions because they got destroyed 38-10. Another close one. This one went to overtime. The 49ers and the Bengals, 26-23. 49ers pull it out on the road. This was a fun game. I saw a little bit. I was at a restaurant there Sunday night, getting ready for finals week. Had to take a little bit of time off and get some good food. Went to BJ's Brewhouse down in Boardman.
Good one.
That's good food there. I've been there a couple times.
Brisket burger. It was good.
Good.
And of course, got salted caramel pizookie at the end.
Yeah.
Those were good. But I saw parts of this game, and these two teams were really slugging it back and forth, and there were a few chances that Bengals could have won it. 49ers could have won it. Ends up going to overtime, and it gets decided there. And really, it was a phenomenal game all the way down. I mean, I couldn't really ask you anything else out of this game. It was really great. The one downside is it hurts the Bengals in their chance for the AFC North spot.
Yeah, it hurts the Bengals a little bit, and they started out slow. They only scored 6 in the first half, so they had to come out and wake it up, and they did. They were down 20. Nothing in the third quarter, but they had 14 in the fourth, so they found something late. But it was, it pushed overtime. But they were
down 20-6 in the fourth and came back. The first touchdown, Burrow had nowhere to go, and he just threw a bomb all the way to the end zone, and Jamar Chase just happened to be right in the right spot and just snagged him. I'm like, oh my goodness. So
I think it was one thing watching this game kind of funny. You forget how many 49ers fans there are in the Youngstown area thanks to the DeBartolo Corporation. So I'm sitting there. Every time I hear, a cheer, I expect it to be the Bengals because we're in Ohio. I figure people are rooting for the, Cincinnati team. And nope, it's the 49ers fans. And I went, this is really odd having fans around me rooting for San Francisco here in Youngstown. But you know what? That was an interesting one for sure. As we continue to roll through the week, Packers dominating again over the Bears. There was a chance you saw that maybe there was going to be a comeback in store for the Bears at one point. But
Bears were
got shut down pretty much as soon as it looked like they had a shot as well. And yeah, Matt, as you were saying, they were up at half. I mean, it was 27-21, but they couldn't get anything to go in the second half. And then Fourth quarter, they get the field goal from Pinheiro, and then everything went flat. I mean, they just lost all momentum.
That's just horrible. I mean, they scored that amount of points, and they only get a field goal in the second half.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers, though, was phenomenal in this game. 341 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's up for Offensive Player of the Week through the air, up there with Herbert and Tom Brady. On the ground this week, it was Dalvin Cook and 2 others who I can't think of at the moment for the rushing Offensive Player of the Week. But yeah, some phenomenal performances in this game. And I think you actually have to give some credit here to Justin Fields. I mean, 74 yards on the ground, 224 yards to the air, 2 touchdowns. He did have 2 interceptions, and that is going to happen in big games with young quarterbacks. You kind of expect it along the way. But I think this was a pretty great game for him, considering the system that he's playing and really isn't designed for him either. He seems to be adapting a little bit better, and he has a lot of room to grow, but I think they've found something here, and I think that I like that they went with him instead of Andy Dalton to finish out this season and just see what you have with him, get him some more reps and try and keep him clean and see what he can do and try and make the style a little bit more towards him to finish out the year. And, it was working there for a little bit. The fact that they were keeping pace and even outscored in that first half, the defense just can't let up on the other side, especially when you're dealing with a rookie quarterback in Justin Fields. So it was a great game. They just couldn't close it out.
Yeah, and Justin obviously has a long way to go, right? He hasn't started the whole year. He doesn't have a full season under his belt. He had the 1 interception that was early. That it's a tough throw, him throwing across the field on a route going toward the sideline. But second one wasn't really a big deal because at the end of the game he threw it a little high. It was tipped. He was trying to get them back, get a quick touchdown. But the thing I liked about the Packers in this game, every time I felt like the Bears were coming back, they go on 6-minute drives, they go on 7-minute drives, and they score touchdowns at them. And Aaron Rodgers talked about that in his post-game press conference, like, hey, we got big plays out of, Adams when we needed it. We got big catches out of him. We got some good runs out of our running backs. We went on big drives when we need to go on big drives. And that to me is why this Packers team is a contender. To me, they're my favorite in the NFC. That's what separates them. They have Aaron Rodgers.
Keep in mind the defense for the Packers. We were just talking there briefly about the Bears defense. The Packers defense pressured Justin Fields on 54.3% of his dropbacks in this game. So they kept them off balance. That's been a big part of the season as well. I want to see him get more touchdowns, though, even out that touchdown interception ratio, because right now he's at about 1,600 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. So he's got to clean that part up. But that's going to come if the offensive line can give him more than a half second to throw the football without there being, 2 linebackers in his face ready to put him in the ground. So that's going to come if they can have an offensive line. I think that's been the biggest problem so far is they don't have anybody to protect Fields or protect their quarterback. I mean, they've had multiple quarterback injuries already this year between Dalton and Fields both. And Fields ended up having to play through a rib injury as well. So
this Packers rushing game is insane. I put it up there with Cowboys, with Pollard and Zeke. I think that's dangerous. But with Dillon and Jones, you have Dillon do the ground and pound the whole field, 71 yards, and then at the end you just give it to Jones and he scores. And
he's fantastic in a shifty running.
Great. Yeah, I like that. That backfield is dangerous. And then you have Aaron Rodgers. They're dangerous.
What do you have to say? They have Aaron Rodgers.
The throws he makes are unbelievable. Like last night, he just lofts one over a defender. Like it's no big deal. Like he's amazing.
I mean, it looked last year, right? Like he was kind of like declining, and it was like, oh, well, this seems like it's going to be it. And obviously, all the talk of like, final season with the Packers. But I don't know if they can put this together the rest of the year. I think there's a chance he stays.
I'm pretty convinced personally that he is going to stay. I feel like he is. It feels like he's having fun with this team.
They brought in some young guys to help him out, especially in the running back department. The defense is coming together, something he hasn't had in a while. It's a good, solid defense in Lambeau. And, I mean, everything seems like it's working right now for the Packers. So I don't think Aaron Rodgers is in that mindset he wants to leave. I think he controls the narrative there as well. So if they play good, it's on him. If they play bad, it's on him as well. So he holds all the cards. If he wants to leave, the team will be in turmoil 100%. But if he stays, they're Super Bowl contender as long as he's at the helm.
And honestly, unless it's something bad, terrible internally, why would he even want to leave?
Yeah.
Where are you really going to go? It's that much better.
There's been problems within the organization, but they made the change. They got rid of Mike McCarthy. That was his number one thing, right? He wanted that head coach gone, and obviously they get rid of him. Cowboys pick him up, and it seems to be the coaching change maybe is going to turn that program around on the internal side of it. So it seems like they at least have something going on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as I said earlier, tonight's only matchup in the NHL between the Blackhawks and the Flames has been postponed due to COVID outbreaks within the organization. So instead, we will have to preview a game from tomorrow, Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. Dallas Stars hosting the 15-8-5 St. Louis Blues. Dallas right now -1.5 point favorite going into this one. Guys, what are your thoughts?
Mike, go ahead here.
Matt, you're the hockey guy. Go ahead.
I mean, the St. Louis Blues. I mean, a couple of years ago, they were in they were in the Stanley Cup, and I think they won it too. They won it, and they've kind of fallen off a little bit. And I hate to see that, but some teams got to go through a real, regroup, rebuild, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's what they're going through. But this year, I mean, they're not looking too bad. Alek, you said their record. That's not too bad.
I mean, right now they sit third in the Central Division, just a couple games back from the Wild, 2 games back from the Predators, who sit in second. And, I mean, they have the same amount of points as the Predators as well, just 4 points back from that Wild team. And they've been doing a great job scoring it. Their defense has been playing well also. And right now they hold a couple spots over the Stars. So I think that's one thing to look at. Not too many games to preview, so we had to look at this one. I don't think it's a bad one to look at. You see the last 10 games for the Stars. I mean, they're 7-3. Blues are 5-2-3. So they've definitely been struggling a little bit more in these last 5. But to me, I follow my algorithm pretty much to a team. Not too many times I differentiate. I can let you guys know one thing. It's not differentiating this time. I'm going to take the Blues. You look at the scoring outputs for both of these teams. The St. Louis Blues, 96 goals for, 79 goals against, a 17-point differential. And the Dallas Stars, just 69 goals for, 70 goals against, so -1 there. And to me, I love my analytics, and I've been using them well here for the NHL season, and it's paid off for me. I don't know if it's going to pay off this time because the Blues have been slumping just a little bit while we've seen these Stars go up and off a little bit more, but I like the Blues to take home the win here with this one against the Dallas Stars.
I'm going to take the Blues here too. I think they can get over Dallas enough to, just to get maybe like a 1-goal win. I predict like a 1-0 game here. Maybe 2-1, maybe. I'm
thinking more like a 3-2.
I think the Blues sneak this one out. What's that?
I'm thinking more of like a 3-2 win here for the Blues.
3-2, maybe. I don't know.
Mike, what are your thoughts here? Blues
Dallas is 9-2 at home, but I'm gonna go St. Louis just because Matt thinks I always pick Dallas teams, so I'm gonna go St. Louis.
Well,
Dallas is going to be the time Dallas wins, though.
That proves my point.
Dallas is good, though.
We all picked the Stars last week to beat the Golden Knights, and they blew the pony, so I think we got to go back the other way.
Dallas is 9-2 at home, though, and they're 4-8 on the road, so this is where they win their home games, but let's go Blues.
Blues have just been a better team this year in general, so I think you have to give them that benefit of the doubt as well, is that they just have been better for the majority of the season. I mean, 15-8-5 versus 13-10-2. I mean, it's close, and obviously the overtime losses are going to hurt the Blues, but I think you get those 5 extra wins in there. They've definitely learned how to close it out at the end and score a lot of goals along the way. I mean, the fact that they're closing in on nearly 100 goals for already in the season, there are just a handful of teams that have done that, including the Minnesota Wild, the Colorado Avalanche, and that's the list. So not too many teams have hit that 100-goal mark yet this season, and the Blues potentially could be the third one here if they can score 4 goals tomorrow night. So they've definitely been one of the hottest teams so far in the season, and I look forward to this matchup. I think it should be a pretty good one. Most of the games we end up voting on normally have the tendency to end up as a 1-goal game or overtime shootouts. So there have been a lot of great matchups early on in the NHL season. But let's go ahead and look at the NBA tonight, 8 p.m., 16-11. Memphis Grizzlies hosting the 15-12 Philadelphia 76ers. Philly is a -3-point favorite going into this one. Guys, what are your thoughts?
I kind of like the way Philly's playing. We keep bringing up how they're undermanned without Ben Simmons. But Saturday night, they get that big win against Golden State at home, and they defended Steph pretty good. They defended the Warriors as a team pretty good. So they're starting to hit a stride here, 15-12. But, Memphis, I don't know if Jaw's playing tonight, but they've been playing pretty good without John Morant. I think they won like 5 or 6 games out of
Philly has just been moved to a 4-point favorite as well. But according to ESPN's BPI Basketball Power Index, Memphis has a 50.8% chance to win this game, as I am looking into the injury report for John Morant.
I think he's missed
His status is out.
He's missed maybe I think they said 8 or 9 games, and they've won 4 or 5 of them. So, and against good teams
5
too.
4 or 5. So
yeah, so they're still playing good even without John Morant, and Dylan Brooks was out the game. I think the one they played against the Lakers last week, and I think over the weekend he was out too. So they're missing some of their big guys, and they're still competing with some of these teams. They're over 5 games over 500. You say same thing with the Sixers. They're missing guys too. So I think it's a matchup of these two teams that are going into it undermanned, but they're still playing good basketball.
Right. And, for the 76er squad, they sit on the last spot of the playoffs in 6th place before that play-in tournament as well that will be kept in the NBA postseason this year. And I think that's a great thing to leave in because I really like the way that turned out last year. But 76ers, they're in 6th place right now. They are about 500 at home, and on the road is where they've been a little bit better, 9-6 there. They need to play a little bit better defense. Their differentials hits just plus 0.6, 106.54, 105.9 against, and 6-4 in their last 10. I want to see them play a little bit better, get a little bit more consistency when you can pretty much assume they might be without Ben Simmons the whole way down. So I think that narrative has to start heading out the door because they've been playing without him this whole time, and they're doing just fine without him. So I think they can pretty much just stop looking into Ben Simmons and just go, hey, why don't we just win the games we have at hand? And on the other side, the Grizzlies 7-3 in those last 10. Their differential of those teams is pretty similar. 110 points for, 109 points against. So it's just a 0.5 point differential there as it was rounding as well. So they've been good at home, 10-6. That's where they played their best basketball. And because of that, even with the injury to John Morant, they've been just fine in these last few games. They will be without Steven Adams, Jaren Jackson, Brandon Clark, and Zaire Williams as well. As they're going to have some injuries in this ball game, but I don't know if it's really going to impact them that much. And actually, I'm looking at the official injury report here. They got a few more guys out. Zaire, Brandon Clark, Steven Adams, and Jackson are on day-to-days, but John Morant officially out still, and so is Sam Merrill. So a lot of injuries for them, but I think they still get it done. I got John Morantless Memphis Grizzlies taking home the win here.
All right. I gotta go Grizzlies here too. I think that they've been playing well without John Morant, and I think they're gonna keep doing it here tonight against Philly.
Mike, I get it. You're taking the 76ers here, aren't you?
I do. I like what they did the other night. I watched some of that game. I think, you're talking about their defense a little bit, questioning a little bit, but I'm pretty impressed with what Matisse Thybulle did on Steph Curry the other night. I think Steph only made like 2 or 3 threes, and he was going for that record.
Yeah, because he's still, chasing Ray Allen. He's been about 10 behind now the last 3 nights or whatever, and he's just very slowly. So he got held down nice by that 76ers defense. And I think one of the things you also look at, I was talking about the defense there, but it's still better than this Memphis squad. So I like that pick. But unfortunately, we are just about out of time here on the Casual Sports Podcast. And that leaves us with one final segment. Matt, I hope you're ready for this one.
I got it.
This one's Beat of the Week, baby.
All right, so this week's Beast of the Week, I almost gave it to a high school player. I almost gave it to Gaskins, to Crestview, because she was dominant in the paint. I just wanted to point that out here. But I got to go with Navy's, what was his first name? Diego Fejó. This dude didn't get a carry at all. The first carry of his career, and it was a fake snap. The guy didn't even know it was coming to him. As soon as he got that ball, even though he wasn't ready, he took off and went 15-yard run. It was insane. What a beast there.
And it helped Navy solidify the win.
Yeah, it solidified the win. Didn't even expect that ball to be snapped to him. I guess the snapper must have misheard something and snapped it to him, so he just took off and started running. It was 15 yards.
In that big of a game, sometimes it's just backyard football. You get the rock and you put your head down and you start pushing through, and that's what happened with Fejó.
And that was a good game, by the way, too. I watched it. It was a close game, scrappy, and that's what Army-Navy games are.
Yeah, I was sitting waiting for that Cavs game Saturday night, sitting in Flannery's eating some sandwiches and poutine. It was delicious.
So good.
And, we're sitting there watching the game, and we're like, oh, my God, Navy's going to win. Navy's going to – how? Oh, I wish we picked them.
Listen, I root for Navy all the time, and I picked Army, and I feel so bad.
I know, right? You didn't expect them to win, and they pull it off, and you're like, oh, dang it, I should have went with my team. Why didn't I? But – yeah, I mean, it was a great one, but that is going to have to do it here for the Casual Sports Podcast. Thank you all once again for tuning in here on YSNLive.com. Power Hour coming next at 3 p.m. We hope you all have a fantastic evening. You can check me out, Liberty versus Brookfield tonight, and Matt out with his squad. What did you say, Badger?
Badger versus Fairpoint.
There you go. That game also earlier in the evening. So the two early games coming from Matt and Alek. We will see you all tomorrow. That caps off our Monday edition of Week 14 on YSN.